Talk is Jeep is recorded live, as always, under the influence of Don Julio Tequila. Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk is Jeep. I am Art.
And I am Tom.
And we are your hosts for this podcast. This is a recap. We have just completed the 29th Drummond Island Jeep Jamboree.
And what a good kind of tired this is.
It is a good kind of tired. This has been a whirlwind. We touched a little bit on those details in the last podcast, but we, ran from work, literally ran from work, drove about 1,100 miles to get to this event in the JL
Soft
two-door sport that I call Snow Dog, and we wheeled it for 2 days, and then we're driving, another 1,200 or so miles to go to a job right after this.
So a good break, a busy break, a quick break, and we've got the sunburn to show for it. We've got all the burn.
We are burnt in many, many ways, and the sun was only part of the damage.
Right.
But there was no damage to the Jeep. Which was always a good thing.
That's a plus.
Not that I've ever really damaged it, but I have broken some fender flares and some tail lights and a license plate bracket on occasion. But for the most part, the Jeep came out clean and fully functional and intact.
And as you'll get into, it was a group of really experienced Jeepers who kind of pushed things on some, testy grounds, and no one got damaged.
I would say that this event for me was a first with the newly installed lockers,
right?
The ARB lockers that I had put in both front and rear, and I wanted to do some trails that were maybe a little more aggressive than I would have chosen in the past, only because I wanted to test the equipment, put the pedal to the metal, as they say,
and as well as your ability to handle that.
Yeah. So they do this particular event a little differently. Normally, you get a list of trails, and they give you descriptions, and then they evaluate your vehicle, and then they see what's the fit for your vehicle on that trail. This was different. This Jamboree does groups, and I think it's almost better. They seem to group the vehicles by driver experience level, and they really just ask you. It's like no one's testing you, no one's testing your Jeep knowledge, your gear ratios, anything like that.
What do you want to do? What can you do?
Yeah.
And then they listen to you.
But what was good about that is that we had, as you sort of teased, we had a collection. I mean, I don't know how many rigs were in our group. 15.
At least 15. Yeah, I would say 15 to 18.
Let's say 15 rigs in our group, and there were multiple groups with the same amount of rigs, give or take. But our group, there was not one time that we had to winch.
Right.
There was not one time that we had to take out a recovery strap. There were some times where it took some people, including myself, a little bit of time to get over an obstacle. But I would say on every challenge, everyone did very, very well. And that's unlike other jamborees, some that you've done with me, some that I've done in other places. Sometimes you get a person who is not really of the same skill as the other drivers, and then things can get bogged down. And not that that's, a negative thing in all circumstances, because everyone has to learn and find their way. But I think it's best when you match up the expectations of the vehicle and the driver and the group.
Right. And there was a lot of learning today. And, shout out to Dave and Mike, who were, excellent spotters. They helped people find the lines. They talked it out. And the other drivers, with a really vast array of different rigs, which we'll get into, everybody talked. Everybody was really focused on what would work, and I learned more today than I've ever learned. Just watching these people talk and work together. Some had been through multiples. There were a couple of first timers. It was really great.
Yeah, it was a good group. I mean, as you said, there was quite a uh, what is the word? A potpourri, a potpourri. There
Potpourri.
was quite a potpourri of vehicles.
It was.
There was a family of five Jeepers, not like brothers and sisters, all,
Uncles,
but
yeah.
uncles and children, nephews, but five of them. They all had different different level of Jeeps, but some of the Jeeps were completely, stud CJ on 40s, with 1-ton axles
Swampers.
and, just like bulletproof. And then there were a couple of others that were, in between, and some that were almost, I would say, unlifted, but they might have stuffed like 35s or 37-inch tires
Right.
under their Rubicons.
Yeah, so there was a whole, array. You had some of the unlimiteds, the four doors. You had the two doors. So you saw how the wheelbase would work into some of these really, technical, rocky climbs and ledges. And we got the opportunity to go over Marblehead, which was out on a beautiful peak overlooking Lake
What did you call
Huron.
me?
Hey, Marble Eyes. But it was really fascinating.
As you alluded to, like you could watch, and this was the great part. So the guides wouldn't tell you like, here's the line, follow me. Like we would go to these obstacles, and there would be multiple choices, and each choice was sort of a different level of risk reward.
Right.
And so we would pull up to the obstacle. Everybody would get out, walk the obstacles, look at the lines, talk to each other a little bit. And then, of course, the Renegade, the stud CJ Jeep that was Renegade. I mean, he would go first, and everyone just wanted to see that beast do its thing. And
Well, he had an aggressive eye, and then that beast, taking some of those lines, it was like, all right.
yeah, but for me,
Hmm.
because my Jeep is not built to that level, and my skill is not at that level of that particular Jeeper was. But you could watch and you could see, and I'm going, okay, he's struggling on that part. That would color my decision making, right? And so we would watch, and so there were a couple of these stud vehicles at the front, and then there were some, we had a couple of smaller two doors, Rubicons. We had a
Right.
couple of four doors that were non-Rubicons. So there was a combination of Jeeps spread out through the rest of the pack. And we'd all try to watch as much as we could before we had to get up to the
Right.
decision-making
It's like,
point
oh, I got to run back to the Jeep.
just to see. But it was great because for me, I mean, my Jeep now with the lockers and my confidence has been going up. I really just felt like I got over some things that I probably wouldn't have even attempted last year.
Right. I mean, and to underscore, the point of learning, at first it was almost a little annoying because we were so used to just driving with the pack and following the line. And, the brakes were like, all right, we got to stop, we got to get out. But in the end, it was fascinating because there were so many choices and everybody was so tuned into, which line can we do? What can this Jeep do? And it really was, I'm coming away with it with a lot more learning experience than I expected.
So, like, what were some of the things that you were able to, learn and put into your universe?
Well, that Jeeps are probably more capable than I realized. Watching them take a line on these rock ledges, there were stair steps and things that I would not imagine that it could go over. I would be worried about the differential. I would be worried about the drivetrain. But watching how they'd hit these steps, sometimes at a really weird angle, 45 degrees, going sideways, and making those, quick turns, I'm like, that it taught me more about how to ride. So watching you and knowing what my Jeep can do, I'm like, well, maybe I can do a little bit more. than I thought previously.
Should we tell your wife that you've purchased lockers and 37-inch tires?
Just tell her I needed them for work, and she'll get it.
Okay, so there there you go, Mrs. Tom. We have a work project that Tom needs to handle.
I do think I need a new axle. My old TJ Sahara's maybe not well equipped enough to follow you up the trail now.
We were like, there was this older gentleman who was a passenger in a Jeep with his son. And at first glance, we sort of was like, oh, okay, it's just an old guy is kind of
Right.
out for the day. And then we got to talk to this gentleman, and he was a very serious Jeeper. And
Through
he
the
had
years.
a lot of, he started this particular Jeep Jamboree, and, he started other Jamborees, and he's involved in other clubs, and
Drives an
Ha-
old Willys. He's an old army guy.
yeah, but really great conversations with that person. But on first inspection, it didn't seem like he was that interested.
It seemed like he was just along for the ride.
Right,
Yeah.
right, which is awesome, because you do get to talk to people at these things, and you get to learn a little slice of
No, that's what's
what
the
they're
best about it.
about.
They take the breaks. You get to sit with everybody.
There are a lot of breaks, maybe too many breaks sometimes.
Sometimes when you're traversing the terrain and there's a lot of get here to go there, and all that. But so in our group, we had a great group. The orange group today was great. Favorite Jeep for you in the group besides your own?
Oh, well. I would say that the Renegade CJ was probably my favorite.
Yeah. That was just seeing him fly over everything was incredible. I'm in love with Cliff's LJ. He had this bright orange '06 LJ 6-speed, and that's like a unicorn in the TJ world. To have, the little bit of an extended wheelbase, and that thing he climbed over everything and just sliced it like butter. It was beautiful.
Yeah, that was a nice rig, and he drove it. He drove it well.
Yeah.
And there were some other drivers that you look at them and you look at their rig, and then you would think, oh, they're going to take the easy line, and one point midday, like these guys were going up, the Renegade line.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was crazy. But I think there is something about seeing someone approach it in a vehicle that's similar to yours, and you're like, wow, okay, I could probably get up that.
Right.
And I know that it happened to me once or twice over the last 2 days, where I saw someone go over a line that I thought I wasn't ever going up or down, and I was read at the last minute. Wow, he made it.
Maybe
I'm
I'll
gonna
try.
do it. No, I did. I mean,
Right.
there was no doubt about it. If I saw someone do it in a rig that looked like mine, I wasn't gonna let my
Trepidation.
fear get
yeah.
in the way.
No, it was good because it gave you that confidence. Being around all these other Jeepers, what the Jeeps can do, and it kind of pushes you, not to the point of, being stupid and dangerous, but, you see you've got everybody around you. They've got, their eyes on what's going on, because this park, especially, there's some tired spots. There's a lot of loose stuff, and they were very mindful of that. They were working around places that were tired. They were helping build up little spots so you could make those steps. It wasn't a hands-off journey. It was really, quite educational.
Yes, yeah, I would agree with that, and in addition to the learning that you had just observing, because you were my co-pilot. I didn't let you drive my Jeep. My wife was saying I should let you drive my Jeep. I'm not
I
quite
wouldn't want to
ready.
be that
I
responsible.
am not quite ready to let someone else pilot it, but what I did learn myself was that the Hero 8 is waterproof.
As is the 7.
Well, I'm not certain about that, but I'll take your word for it. But
I watched it.
I saw the Hero 8 go under the water on a swamp run. We were treading through
That was some serious water.
serious swamp mud, and the Hero 8 kept recording.
It did. It did. The 7 did well. We haven't seen the footage yet, but I watched it. And, so both of them were right there at the sill, and water was up and over, and it kept going.
we will share a link to maybe an edit and maybe some footage, maybe some clips from this particular Jamboree. Tom, what is next? What is next for you? Your next Jeep adventure?
What I am dying to do is just take my '03
Okay.
Sahara, we've dubbed Julius, on the beach. Haven't been able to do it yet. I live on Cape Cod. We've got the passes, the ORV passes to Sandy Neck Beach, Nauset Outer Beach, and we haven't had time. It's been a busy summer. It's been crazy. So my next Jeep journey is going to be a beach day. And then after that, I'm looking forward to Bethel, Maine for that Jeep Jamboree.
Yes, that'll be in October.
Late September.
Late September. Late September. Yeah, so my next Jeep adventure is driving 14 hours to Tysons, Virginia. That's an adventure because, it's a two-door Jeep on a long stretch of driving.
You'll let me drive part of that, won't you?
I will absolutely let you drive part of that. There is something to be said about driving because there's a lot of people who trailer their vehicles to these events. And there is nothing wrong with that. I don't have the financial means to have a pickup truck and a trailer just to tow my Jeep around. But there is something, I think, to be said about driving the vehicle that you're going to wheel to the event, wheel it, and then be able to drive it home.
Well, that went into some of your thinking today on some of the paths you took, some of the lines.
It did.
And that's not a bad thing. I mean, this is a daily driver,
I think even more than just like my whatever feelings on preserving it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a testament to Jeep as a vehicle, as a brand,
Mm-hmm.
as a manufacturer. Like they build these vehicles so well that we drove 1,100 miles on the highway on mud terrain tires
Right.
at 75 miles an hour, and it was very manageable. I can't hear anything, but other than that, it was manageable.
You got to turn the music up and just listen for the beat.
But we wheeled it, and then we're driving it 1,200 miles back at 75 or 80 miles an hour. Like, that's impressive.
And it did some super human stuff in the meantime.
It did very, very well.
It did.
Yes, the last obstacle I didn't want to push. It was funny. There was that one two-door Rubicon without the lift, but stuffed with big tires.
Yes.
With almost no clearance. Like he was hitting the wheel wells.
He was bumping.
But he drove it like it was a rented mule.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Like sometimes you don't want to push your vehicle because yes, I need to get home and this is how I'm going.
Right. If he didn't hit the right line, that was a broken axle.
Yes. So there is something to be said about driving it to and from an event. There were people there who did it, who we talked to, who said it's a daily driver, and that's one approach. The other approach is just let it rip.
Let it rip
or
and
skinny pedal.
Spend a couple weeks in the garage fixing it. And for some that's awesome. That's what they want to do. They want to push it as far as they can and fix what doesn't work.
That's true. Well, we will share some videos and maybe some pictures that we have from this event. We did a bunch of recording on the GoPros and a drone, and we're planning the next adventure. Maybe it'll be something that pops up in between if we can find the time. But until next time, I'm Art.
I am Tom.
And this is Talk is Jeep.
Enjoy.